Welcome back to the MiniDex, where each episode we cover 3 different Pokemon that for whatever reason might not need an entire episode to themselves. As always, this show is heavily influenced by audience response, and this week you guys asked for Treecko, Togepi, and Charjabug. Good choices. Let's get started. Despite its small size, Treecko is a confident Pokemon that never loses composure. Even when its opponent is much larger and stronger, it fiercely defends its forest home from anything or anyone who tries to harm it. And speaking of homes, Treecko live in an area where they're able to climb vertical walls and even hang on ceilings, so it kind of makes sense to hear that Treecko is often referred to as the wood gecko Pokemon. In fact, if we want to get more specific, Treecko's design is largely inspired by the leaf-tailed gecko, a rainforest-dwelling gecko with an incredible camouflage technique. Wide tails shaped exactly like leaves to help them lay undetected against trees, where they lie so flat they don't even cast a shadow and live off the moths and crickets that pass on by. But that's not even where Treecko's similarity to geckos stops. Remember how we said Treecko loved to climb walls? Just like geckos, they do it using hook-like adaptations on their hands, which in real life are actually microscopic hairs called setae. These setae then split off into even smaller bristles called spatulae, which are so small and so tiny, they're actually measured on a nano level, and when a gecko presses them onto a surface, they can actually penetrate the space between the atoms in the wall. This gets them so close to each other that they actually just attract through natural electromagnetism, and the gecko's foot magically sticks. It seems impossible, but this phenomena is an example of Van der Waals forces, and truly, they're just as mind-blowing and amazing as they sound. Man, aren't starters always so cool? But now, let's jump back in time to the short period after Gen 1 but before Gen 2, where we were all obsessed by a mysterious new spike ball Pokemon called Togepi. Its first video game appearance was technically Hey You Pikachu, but many of us probably remember seeing Misty's Togepi hatch from a mysterious egg the gang happened across in the anime, which is pretty appropriate since in Gold and Silver version, it's the first Pokemon ever to canonically hatch from an egg. Also, Togepi has the rare distinction of being a normal type who was actually changed to Fairy in the 6th generation of Pokemon games, which honestly works pretty well. Togepi is considered a good luck Pokemon, and it actually absorbs positive feelings and emotions from people to share them with others, and it keeps this ability even when it evolves to Togetic and eventually Togekiss. Sounds pretty fairy-like, right? There's even a proverb from its Pokedex entry in Silver version that says anyone who can make a sleeping Togepi stand up will be given happiness. Can't you just imagine the fairy tale a story like that would come from? Just like Alola's own Togedemaru, Togepi's name uses the root toge, which means spike in Japanese, and Togepi's spiky head is no doubt useful for breaking out of its shell when it hatches. This is similar to a real-world feature that many egg-laying creatures exhibit just before hatching called an egg tooth. Usually there's some type of sharp, cranial protuberance, and after it's used, it usually falls off and disappears. Not true with Togepi though, it keeps its Lisa Simpson-like appearance well into maturity. But we're not too big on total maturity here on the MiniDex, so for our last Pokemon this week, let's check out our first ever middle boy, this time from good old Gen 7. It's Charjabug. Charjabug comes right between Sweet Little Grubbin and multi-edged monstrosity Vikavolt in the Alolan Pokedex. It's called the Battery Pokemon, and that's not just because he's a dead ringer for one with his totally square body shape and cute little mandible prong thingies. Apparently, these guys are actually super good at storing electricity in their bodies, so much so that they could even power a whole household for up to a day, and other Pokemon have been known to regularly use them to recharge their own electric power. If you think about it, they're kind of like the Pokemon world's own version of those battery chargers we all bought to play Pokemon Go. Charjabug is the pupae stage of Vikavolt's life cycle, and like many pupae, it hardly ever moves on its own. In fact, like a lot of beetle larvae specifically, Charjabug actually burrow underground while they're waiting to transform. And actually, they look a lot like beetle larvae too, which can be distinguished from caterpillars by their lack of proto-feet. However, it's not a perfect match, and there is one caterpillar that Charjabug owes much of its design to specifically. This cute little guy is the caterpillar stage of the Monema flavan's moth. The moth itself looks pretty basic as far as moths go, but the caterpillar version is often called Dankimushi, or electric insect in Japan, because when you get stung by the bright green spines all over its body, it supposedly feels like you're getting an electric shock. Just don't ask me to try it. And now that I mention it, speaking of things that I'm definitely not going to try, or at least not again anyway, Charjabug does kind of look a lot like a 9-volt battery, which can also give you a small shock, if you're dumb enough to lick one. And kids, before you get any ideas, please don't try it. Not only is it dangerous, but I hear if you do try it, you're guaranteed to get cooties too, the bad ones even, so, be careful. Anyway, that's it for this week. Isn't science amazing? Thanks for picking such awesome Pokemon this week, guys, and remember, if you have some more you want to see us cover, leave your suggestions in the comments below. I'm Bug Maniac Alex, and this has been the MiniDex. Click one of these strange picture boxes here for more Pokemon-related goodness. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching!